Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to HendosHotTopics. Hope you're doing well. Hope you have an amazing week. Hope you're looking after yourself. Now today we have a life coach and a breathwork facilitator and the host of the Full Circle podcast. Anna Squelch, how's it going, my friend?
So good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. How's your week been?
It's been probably one of the busiest weeks that I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
And so we're recording on a Friday afternoon, and I'm so excited for the weekend, but it has been good.
Now, what I love to ask is how are you doing in general?
I'm good. I've been on this journey of kind of navigating mental health and learning more about myself and having my own life coaching business for about 5 years. So it's hard to escape your tools and it's hard to
Yeah.
escape doing the work. So I'm very fortunate that I have tools to turn to, all the time. So I'm doing good, but there's always ups and downs.
How do you find, you just said that, sometimes it is hard, because it is hard to sometimes, escape your own, your own motivation, your own advice. How do you balance that out?
I think it's just keeping it real. Like for me, I love reality TV and
Yeah.
I love picking up a fiction book and I love just doing, stupid, meaningless stuff because when you work in, mental health or the field that I work in, you're constantly sort of looking for problems and you're
Yeah.
looking for things that are wrong.
Yep.
And you can constantly be looking for the next thing to fix.
Yep.
And so I think just keeping myself grounded I have friends who are not in this world at all. So they keep me grounded, traveling, getting away. I spend a lot of time on my own. So just, yeah, getting out of the heady stuff and getting into my body out in nature, water, all of that.
Just reconnecting with yourself, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I crossed paths with you. I was attended the Arepa yoga night, and I was actually very excited when they said there was going to be a breathwork class because I'd never actually done it before, and I was really excited to just explore a new avenue and possibly find something else about myself. And you hear a lot about, especially with like Wim Hof breathing and all these different techniques, but actually to be there and do it and yeah, explore it. It was a different experience. I actually went away with it, and as soon as I stepped out of the office we were in, I was like, oh, okay, we're back in the real world now. It was very it transported me to a different, I would say, different realm. I was really, for once in the busy world we live in, really connected and in tune within myself and my thoughts, and didn't have really any responsibilities or any worries at that point in time. So, what I'm really interested about is, what was your life before you became a life coach and breathwork facilitator? What was it that actually pushed you towards that avenue of work?
Mm. We all have a story
Yeah.
that brings us to this work. And mine was very much like living and working in the corporate world. So I was an executive assistant for about 8 years and just like high pressure, high pace, managing lots and lots of high powered people. And I just burnt out essentially. So 8 years after working in that world, I started to develop heart palpitations at work. And I started to not be able to concentrate or not be able to remember what I was meant to be doing. And the symptoms got worse and worse over time. And then I went to a doctor and she said, I think you've got anxiety. And that had been something that wasn't really sort of normalized in my family. We weren't anxious people. And so it wasn't a conversation that I'd ever really had to approach before. But that was when I started to listen. And then I ended up having a massive panic attack and ending up in A&E. It was my first ever panic attack. I thought I was dying. And the doctor ran all these tests and plugged me into these machines and very calmly just told me, oh, you just had a panic attack. Like, what's going on in your life right now? And so that was what really kickstarted my journey. And I started looking at, is this career really supportive of how I want to be feeling and how I
Yeah.
want to be living my life? So I things snowballed really quickly after that. I enrolled in a health coaching certification through IIN, which is a school in the US. I became a health coach after a year and then started taking on clients while I was still working full time. And then I just thought, I just can't do this anymore. Like, I want to do coaching. I want to throw myself into this full time. And so that was that. And this year it will be 5 years.
Time flies, eh, when you do what you love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being in a family who you just said there wasn't anxious, what was the feelings that actually flowed through your mind and body when you were told, okay, you actually, you have anxiety and you have had a panic attack?
Mm. I think there's a lot of shame because I think we can internalize whether it's anxiety or mental health, anxiety or depression or OCD or
Hmm.
whatever it is. I think we internalize it and we think it must be something that I've done or it must be that I am incapable. It's something to do with my capabilities. And so I was quite hard on myself. Um, I was quite confused. I think I was in denial for quite some time because I thought that that was something that happened to other people and that I was relatively healthy and I was relatively switched on and it
Yep.
shouldn't be something that was affecting me. So I think it was just denial, but I think it was also a relief that I had this sort of pathway that I could go on medication, I could, seek support. I knew what I was dealing with now. It wasn't just these symptoms that I didn't know. I had days where I thought that my head was going to explode
Yeah.
and I was so dizzy that I couldn't, walk straight. And I finally had this sort of pathway that I could start to heal myself.
Now, it's really interesting what you said there is, that you actually could reach out for support, and now that you'd been told, well, you had these questions unknown to you, they'd been finally answered. There's a lot of people who, they are struggling with depression or anxiety, and, support's the last thing they want to do. They want
Yeah.
to strive through it themselves. They want to take care of it, of themselves. They don't want to reach out for help. But I think that is really important and really powerful what you said, is that you were told what you're going through, and you're like, okay, now I understand. I've been battling with this subtle weight on my shoulders. I didn't know what it was. Now I can go get support because I know what it is, and that is so amazing. And thank you for saying that, because that is a big pushback for a lot of people. Is not, I'm not going to ask for help. Oh, it's okay. Everyone deals with it. I'll just get through it myself. But support, even if it's reaching out to your friends or your best mate, or saying to someone in your family, saying, I am feeling really bad today. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's brought this on, but even can we just have a chat? Can we have a chat about it? And it's so amazing once you actually have reached out for support, how everything just falls in line. Everything starts falling into place, because that's like you said, that's the start of the snowball effect. That you've reached out for support. Now all these other amazing things are going to come your way from looking out for yourself. Now 5 years, 5 years ago, you decided to make that decision to push yourself into that avenue and not only overcome what you're going through, but actually help people who are going through it yourself. Has there ever been a moment so far where maybe someone's come up to you, or you've been in an environment where people have, you can see they're grieving, or you can see they're struggling, and you've gone, wow, I was in that position, and now I'm able to actually help them push through it?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Yeah. And it's so interesting that everything that every woman, because I only work with women at the moment in a life coach capacity, and every woman that comes to me, they feel as if their situation is unique. And I get straight to the heart of the matter within, minutes. And they're like, oh my God, I feel so seen. I feel no one has been able to kind of put this into words. And it's not that I have some gift. It's just that every single woman, it all stems back to the same stuff. It's guilt, it's shame, it's lack of boundaries, it's lack of self-worth, it's lack of knowing yourself. And it's so easy to see it in other people because I've lived that myself, and because of the amount of women that I work with now who it's all just the same stuff.
Yeah.
We're all just like looking for permission to be more of ourselves. We're looking for permission to be able to say no, to set boundaries, to, just be more of who we are.
I love that permission. Yeah. Everyone's looking for a reason to be noticed, to be heard, to be seen. And it's that validation that a lot of us need to be able to take on day to day just events.
Yeah. And our greatest desire as humans is to belong. And there's so much out there now with, social media and just everything, where there's this whole sense of, I don't belong, I don't fit in, I don't look like her, I don't look like that, I don't have as many followers. And we live in this world now where it is so hard to feel as if you belong unless you are on this path of personal development and really prioritizing getting to know yourself and putting yourself in environments where belonging is what is fostered and encouraged.
Yeah, 100%, especially in the last 2 years where a lot of people are struggling mentally. You go on your phones and you see people who they seem to be doing well, seem to be living lives, in Europe, and seem to have their life all together in a time of struggle. And that's a big play that I've seen personally on a lot of people's mental health is, everyone around me is struggling, yet I go on my phone and see this person living the perfect, so to say, life.
Yeah.
Now, what I was going to say is, how has it helped you? You spoke about how you're able to help other people now because they're somewhat in the same shoes that you were 5 years ago before you became a life coach. But how has this journey over the 5 years helped you?
I love that question. I feel like I haven't reflected on that properly, but because I don't know my life
Yeah,
without this work. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? And so I can't even imagine where I would be right now if I hadn't, just taken those first steps and picked up that first book and, went to that first workshop. And um, I would say that it's just a deeper sense of knowing who I am. I
mm,
felt like all of my 20s, all of my teens, it was the sense of like, who the hell am I? Like, I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know who my people are. I don't know what my values are. It was just a sense of like flailing about, just feeling completely lost, looking for satisfaction, fulfillment, contentment, purpose, value in everything outside of me. And so now I'm very clear that all of that comes from within,
yep,
and it's very much an inside job, and that my happiness is not reliant on any other person or any other thing, or whether I'm married or not, or
yep.
any of these external factors that I used to place on such a pedestal. It's just this real sense of inner peace and contentment of like, no matter if shit's hitting the fan, I've got me.
So it's that real, it is what it is mind state.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's not complacency. It's just like, well, there's things that you can control and there's things that you can't. And the
yeah.
thing that I absolutely can control is how I take care of myself on a daily basis, who I surround myself with, and the way that I respond to life.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, would you have any advice off the top of your mind for someone who is trying to, find themselves and is trying to be okay with who they are in the position they're in and just who they are as a person?
Mm. I think self awareness is our biggest gift. And self awareness, which is knowing ourselves, knowing what made us ourselves, knowing where we came from, knowing our history, knowing what triggers us, knowing what our wounds are, knowing what our shame and our shadows are, all of
Yeah,
that is so, so, so powerful. And we can only know ourselves to the depth in which we're willing to spend time with ourselves.
yeah, exactly.
That's why I'm such a massive proponent of just spending time alone, meditating, doing breath work, like going on solo adventures, spending like taking 10 or 15 minutes each day to have non-demand time or white
Yeah,
space where you're not doing anything. And if boredom comes up, which it will for a lot of people who are not used to doing this, that's where your resistance, that's the resistance where the growth lies, is just, can you sit in the boredom? Can you sit in the, you're not achieving anything, you're not being productive, you're not, doing anything, but you're getting to know yourself.
yeah. Can you live the quiet days before you get to the loud,
Yeah,
colourful ones? And it
totally.
is, time by ourselves is such a powerful tool that a lot of us, some people do struggle to game because they really enjoy the bustling 9 to 5, going clubbing every weekend. But to
Mm,
find your true self, I truly believe that you have to learn to live with yourself. Exactly like you
yeah,
see on the board days, the days where there's nothing to do, the days where you just sit there and don't do anything.
yeah,
You don't have to go out every weekend, have to be drinking every Friday night to have a, a good, enjoyable life.
mm,
The time by ourselves, I truly believe is the most valuable time we have. It's when we
yeah,
learn a lot about ourselves. It's when we can reflect on a lot of, maybe past traumas or past decisions we're not very happy with. A lot of reflecting on how we can move forward as a person to encourage ourselves to become the person we want to be.
yeah, yeah. And just getting radically honest with ourselves as
Yes.
well.
Yep.
Like, if you sit with yourself and if you have no distractions and it's just you and it's just your head and everything, you'll notice how and what you use to numb. You'll notice how often you get the urge to reach for your phone and get into a scroll hole. You'll notice how often you want to get up and go to the fridge or go to the pantry and distract yourself with food. You'll notice how often you just think, I'll just text the boys and go for a beer.
Yeah.
And strip all of those distractions away, strip all of those like numbing vices away, and you're just left with yourself. Can you hold yourself in that?
Yeah, love that. It's
Mm.
trying to break the stereotypes that surround you every day, eh?
Yeah.
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 Now, it's a pretty cliche question, but I have a lot of people who are, they're into sports, or a lot of people who are actually into running. Now, the question I want to ask you is, with running or sports, is how do you find a rhythm with breathing? Because it could be 20 seconds into a run, and you go, "What am I doing?" Or, "Come on, just breathe. Why aren't you able to breathe?"
Mm. Mm. I love that you think I'm an expert on athletics. What would I say to that? So what I would say is that most of us, athletes included, we breathe terribly. We
Mhm.
breathe
Yep.
incorrectly. And Nigel Beach, I don't know if you've had him on the podcast before, but he is awesome. He's a Wim Hof trained instructor down in Tauranga. And I went to a couple of his workshops and really learned how to breathe properly again. And I also went to a breathing coach to learn how to breathe properly when I was at the height of my anxiety. And I realized how much I breathed into my chest versus breathing into my diaphragm. And so part of that is just identifying, like, in your natural state, when you're not running, when you're not doing sport, how are you breathing? Like when you're talking on the phone or watching TV or just, with yourself. The majority of us, we breathe through our mouth, and we also breathe into our chest. To breathe properly, our chest and our shoulders shouldn't be moving. It should just be all diaphragm. So while you're listening to this podcast, you might want to place a hand on your belly and just see how much that hand on your belly is expanding. And try not to move your shoulders at all. Try and listen to the rest of this podcast just breathing through your nose and not through your mouth. So those are two really good places to start. A lot of athletes have started taping their mouths shut when they sleep, because when we sleep, we tend to breathe through our mouth. And that leads to so many different physical and emotional, mental health kind of ailments as well. So there's a whole body of research on that. There's a great book called Breath that talks all about that by James Nestor. And we overbreathe. So we take these like massive gasps of air, particularly when you're playing sport, when you're running, you're getting out of breath, and you're taking these massive gulps of air when you should be breathing at a much lesser capacity than that, and just breathing like just enough, just taking sips of air. And yeah, trying to breathe through your nose, trying to just take sips of air, not over breathing, trying to extend your belly. That should be a good place to start.
Well, I recall when you did your session when we were at the yoga night for Arepa, and you mentioned how breathing through our nose it's more of an alertness. It's got a lot of fundamentals and benefits. Now, someone who's just listened to you saying, okay, why should I breathe through my nose rather than my mouth? Is there any benefits to breathing through our nose and really focusing on the way we breathe?
Yeah, so we've got this nervous system. We've got this parasympathetic nervous system. And when we breathe through our mouth, for example, we're activating that fight or flight response in our nervous system as if we were just about to get a shock.
Yeah.
Whereas when we're breathing through our nose, we're activating the rest and digest state, which is like, it just feels more calming when you do it, right? And so it's activating different parts of your nervous system. So naturally, if you got a fright or you were in a rush to do something, you would be breathing through your mouth, because you need all of that blood pumping in your body to help you to run away from the tiger.
Yep.
But just practice doing a little bit of breathing through the nose and then extending the exhale, and notice the effect that it has on your nervous system.
It's a lot more when you're doing it that night. That's the first thing I realized is how quick and instantly calm I was. It was your whole body it sinks. That's the best way I can explain it. It sinks and just becomes one. And it is really, after that night, I did focus on that, because I partially can't breathe through my nose because it's been broken so many times. But once I had swapped to breathing through my one nostril to breathing through my mouth, you can feel a real benefit to it. You feel less slumped. That's the easiest way I can put it. You feel less slumped. You feel less congested in the mind, and that is really interesting, because when you do think about it like that, breathing through your mouth, that is the initial where you go when you get frightened or you get scared or you get really worried or you're upset, you sigh. But when you breathe through your nose, you might even be doing it right now, is you'll feel that your chest lifts up and you just feel like you feel a lot taller, and you feel more of a important person than you might have been 5 minutes ago. Which is really something interesting, and a lot of people wouldn't even cross their mind for 5-10 years, because they're so focused on life in general. It's the little basic fundamentals that can have so much more benefits on us than we realize.
Yeah.
What is a simple breathing technique that someone can do after just detoxing after a long day, maybe a really stressful day in the office, or a day where nothing's just gone right for them?
I'll give you a couple. So there's one that I love, which is called box breath. So you're literally breathing in the shape of a box. So you breathe in for a count of 4, hold at the top for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, and then hold out for a count of 4. And I would recommend doing that through your mouth. Doing that through your nose and then exhaling out through your mouth. That's one. That's box breath. Do 10 rounds of that and your nervous system will be completely down. So I do that one when I'm stuck in traffic, when I'm panicking, when I'm about to miss a flight, when I'm going into a stressful, conversation or something. And the next one would be the straw breath. So straw breath, you breathe in through the nose. And then the exhale is out through your mouth as if you were breathing out through a straw. So it's really slow, really long. So it looks like this. So the longer that you can make the exhale, it really brings that parasympathetic state down.
And was there one, if I remember correctly, was it Halo?
Halo Active?
Halo,
Yeah.
that was one that I felt really,
Yeah.
that really impacted me the most, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to do 10 of those for the listeners as well?
Sorry to all the headphone listeners.
They can do it now. Don't do it if you're driving.
Yeah, don't do it if you're driving, yeah.
The Halo Active is really powerful, and it's just an intentional inhale through the nose, intentional exhale through the mouth.
That was the one where I felt the temperature change and my body really kicked in to gear that one with that one. That was one, if you were wanting to try one, as I would recommend doing the Halo one, that was the one that really had an impact on me.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of reconnecting with yourself, I spoke about it before, about the time we're living in right now, the past 2 years. A lot of people have lost themselves. A lot of people have lost their basic, I would say, will to go day to day. A lot of people not wanting to get out of bed. How can we reconnect with ourselves? It might even be just creating new habits. To some, that's really hard at the moment. But is there any advice you have in terms of just the simple things to help us get back on track?
Yeah, I'm big on the simple things. I think that just turning up the dial on a few things in your life, like making tiny micro adjustments, is just the best place to start. And so I would say that one of those things that is really fundamental is just acknowledging the last 2 years, like acknowledging that we are in a trauma response and acknowledging that it's been fucked, and like giving ourselves permission that we've been pretty scrappy for the last 2 years, and it's okay. Because when we can move to a place of radical acceptance of like, yeah, that was shit, that was hard, I let my healthy habits go, I let myself go, I've gained weight, I've been drinking more than usual. If we can come to a place of acceptance where we let go of the shame, we let go of the guilt, it's kind of like a clean slate.
Yeah.
And so can you just move into a place of acceptance of like, whoa, that was heavy, it makes perfect sense that I responded in the way that I did, it made perfect sense that I let go of some of my healthy habits. And then reconnecting to what brings you joy. Like so much of the last 2 years and the last 20 years, I would say, with the way that the world has been moving, is we are so stuck in our heads. And I work with women. And so men, traditionally, they operate really well when they're in their heads. That is a masculine trait of being in your head, strategizing, being logical, rational, all of those things. Women and people who have more dominant feminine energy operate better when they're in their bodies, when they're in their emotions, when they're in their hearts. Yet a lot of women now are operating in their heads. They're operating in their masculine, they're in their structured mind, trying to figure things out. And they've lost their ability to connect into their intuition and into their emotions and truly be in their body and experiencing life through their body. And so whether you're a man or a woman listening to this and you feel that sense of disconnection, because men will benefit from this as well, prioritizing things that get you into your body. And so everyone loves to dance. Like whether you can dance or not, you love to dance. You love the way it makes your body feel. Boxing, like doing a sauna, which allows you to really just start shifting. What else? Breath work, obviously. Meditation, things that just get you out of your head, getting out in nature, going to the snow, and prioritizing those things that just drop you out of that structured mind, which is why breathwork is so powerful. And that's what you would have experienced at the Arepa event.
Yep.
Was you dropped out of your structured mind and you were just pure feeling. You were just pure, like Jack, just in his body.
Yeah.
So those would be my top two.
That is really, like we said near the start, is just reconnecting with yourself and being the one is as easy as that. Even going for a brisk walk is just being in touch with your body and demanding some physical reaction from your body is really keep your body and mind in sync. And it is I know you might be listening to this right now, and you may be working a 9 to 5, or you might be on the construction site, you might be an accountant, you might be a nurse who does long, demanding hours. It may be hard for you to get 5-10 minutes just to reminisce and reflect on your day or your week or who you are as a person right now. But even if you're at work, on your break, just take that time for yourself. Don't go straight to picking up your phone and seeing what your mates are doing or what that person's doing who's getting in the limelight, a celebrity is. Just take some time out for yourself, because at the end of the day, the person tucking you into bed is yourself. So that is really important to focus on who you are and where you want to go and what you're doing in the moment of time. Are you happy with what you're doing? Are you happy with where you're going? Or is it time to take a step back, take a risk or lose a chance for yourself and actually go the way you want to go? Now, I spoke to you about your life before becoming a life coach and a breathwork facilitator. Was there anything that at that moment of time that you had eyes on? Is there any different avenue or profession that you wanted to do, or was it when you were told, okay, you have anxiety, you're having these panic attacks that you may not be realizing, you go, oh, okay, no, I need to make a change. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot for the stars.
Well, very early on, I wanted to be a backup dancer.
Yep.
Clearly that didn't eventuate. And then I wanted to be a flight attendant, and that didn't happen either. I actually I went to hospitality management school because I wanted to be a hotel manager. So I worked in hotels. So I was very service orientated. So I think that I knew that I wanted to be in service, but I didn't know how that looked. And so I did the hotel thing, I did the EA thing. And then when I gave up trying to find the thing and just focused on following my passions and focused on healing myself and doing what I needed to do for me, that's where the career was born out of. I didn't enroll in my health coaching certification wanting to be a coach. I just wanted to heal myself, and I wanted to understand myself better, and I wanted to, just go down the path of what felt passionate. And I think that's what trips a lot of people up. They're in their mind, in their logical mind, thinking, how do I figure this out? How do I figure out my purpose and figure out my career path? The moment that you stop trying to figure it out and you actually just enjoy your life and you connect to what is like the fire that's within you, which every single person has, that's when it drops in. Like, that's when you figure out what your thing is, by following your passions and just living your life. It's not by figuring it out.
How does one just focus on themselves and figure out what they want to do? Because we're, especially a lot of my friends who are in the younger generation, is you see on movies and you see everything. Okay, I finish high school, go to university, find my lifetime partner, settle down, buy a house, whatever it is, have some kids, get married, and that's you done for life. There's a lot of people who don't want to be in that stereotype. So for those who are trying to break that stereotype and actually, no, okay, I'll find a partner when I'm comfortable. I want to live life. I want to do what I want to do. Is how does that one do that? How do they focus on themselves and actually take time to do what they want to do?
Well, I'm 38. I'm single. I don't have kids. So there's an idea of me not following the traditional path. It's just knowing yourself. Like, the more that you can connect to yourself, the more that you connect to and give yourself permission to live a life that is most in alignment and authentic for you, the rest just unfolds. Like, we are not in control of the outcome. And that's one of the biggest things that I teach, is letting go of the attachment to an outcome. Because if we think, oh, I need to be, a partner at a law firm by this age, and I need to be married by this age and have kids by this age and have this house and da. We're not present for the journey, and we're not present with who we're becoming in the process, which is how we actually achieve goals in the first place, is who we become in the process. So I tell people to let go of the end goal, let go of how it needs to look, drop the expectations, and just like fall in love with the process of who you're becoming and stay present to the journey. Because if you set your sights like here, you're missing all of what's out here. And you miss so much potentiality. And for the women who are listening, we are very good at upper limiting ourselves. And so we might have a goal that's like far lower than what we could actually achieve if we were to just drop the expectations, let go of the attachments, and just enjoy the ride.
I love that. Yeah, being present is, I've said it multiple times in this podcast, it's something that a lot of people find hard to do. Being present and actually just stepping back from what's around you. We're so No, you go.
We don't live in a world that values presence. Like,
Yeah.
we just don't.
Yeah,
We don't.
it's
Social
always
media would die.
it's always move, one up yourself, indulge in what surrounds you, be invested into what everyone else is doing and not actually what you're doing yourself. And
Yeah.
it is one of those habits that it is going to be hard to build if you're not used to taking time for yourself or doing what you want to do. It is a hard habit to do, but
Mm.
I started off with doing, just 20 minutes of reading before I go to sleep. Little things like we said before,
Yeah.
simple little things that are actually going to benefit you in the long run. Once you start
Mm.
realizing how much more enjoyment, how much more energy, how much more fulfilled you feel when you actually take that time out for little things for yourself. There's a saying I actually heard a couple months ago, and it is, you're willing to work 8+ hours for someone else's dream. Why can't you even work 30 minutes for yourself?
That's so.
And that is so.
That-
That made me realize. I'm like, that is so true. We're
Yeah.
so prepared to wake up early, to get in our car and drive to work to help someone else succeed at their own dream. Yet when we come home, the first thing we want to do is go to sleep and get up again and work for them again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just take time for yourself. It's as easy as that. Don't feel so bad and harsh on yourself if you go, okay, okay, boys, okay, ladies, I'm not going to go out this weekend. I might give this one a miss. You have a good time. I'll see you next time. Don't feel so hard on yourself if you actually want to take a night in. If you want to have a quiet one. If you want to go to bed early, go to bed early. If you want to have that little snack or junk food that you don't usually have because you're craving it, just do it. Just do stuff for yourself that's actually going to bring you enjoyment. Make you feel like a purpose, and that you're heard and seen in this world that surrounds you. That makes you, for 9 times out of 10, 6 out of the 7 days a week, makes you feel like a nobody. Makes you feel like you have no reason to be here. That you may feel like that no one cares or loves you, or that you're not seen by people who surround you. Is give a reason to twist that around and be like, okay, no, I'm meant to be here. There's a reason I'm here. I'm capable of so much more than I may have been told. There might be that teacher in school who said, you're never going to amount to anything. Is prove them wrong and prove yourself right. Have purpose to your life and why you're living right now.
Yeah. I think so many people, if they got radically honest with themselves, they'd realize that they were living their parents' dream and not their own.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, you see that a lot, eh? You have parents who say to their kids that you're going to be a lawyer when you grow up. You're going to be a nurse, and that's why that's why we see a lot of destruction, especially for adults, because they've lived a life where they're faking it till they make it. They fake their way through their life doing something they don't want to do just to maybe get an exception from their parents, get a simple hug or I love you or good job. That validation from your parents it is sad to see, but that happens a lot. And there's a lot of expectation, especially on the younger generations, of living up to the amount of what they see before them. I finished high school 2 years ago, and last year of high school, all the teachers were saying is, you better know what you want to do by the end of the year. You better do all this work to get into university. You want a good education. You want a good job, blah blah. And there were so many kids who were saying, I don't want to do that. And they're 2 years into university now, and they go, well, why did I start? I wasted 2 years doing something I don't actually like, or I could have done 2 years doing an apprenticeship, traveling around the world, taking a gap year, being
Finding yourself.
an influencer. Yeah, finding yourself. Exactly. Finding yourself.
There's so many outdated constructs out there, and I think that's what people don't realize. Like, the education system is such an outdated construct that worked, back then, but it doesn't work now. And, breaking away from that mold can be really terrifying for a lot of people. And there's the sunk cost fallacy, right? Of like, your parents told you to go to university and do a law degree, and now you're 6 years in and you fucking hate it, but you've invested all of this time and you don't want to let them down. So you're just going to follow through with it and have this miserable life. Like, we need to understand that there are these powers at play that are keeping us stuck in these patterns that feel so far from who we actually are. And so doing those little things, like you said, of connecting to yourself, reading, meditation, podcasts, like taking time to yourself to ask yourself those questions of like, am I happy? Am I happy? Am I happy? Does this feel aligned? Is there something else out there for me?
Yeah. And if you're not happy, then what do I need to do to be happy? It is those questions, and we said it before, is the simple things. It's the simple things. It's simple things that everyone looks over that we're told to not focus on.
And they're all free.
Yeah, 100%. They're all free, and like we said earlier, is the other thing that's free is support. If you are struggling through these times to find yourself and figure out where you want to go is there is support. You have friends around you, your family who, little do you know, may be going through the exact same thing as you are, and they're actually just waiting for that spark. It's like in a classroom. Go back to when you're in primary school in a classroom and the teacher asks you a question. You wait till someone else puts their hands up first before you put yours up. And that's how it happens. You wait for someone else to say, I'm having a shit day, for you to go, yeah, actually, me too. How's it going? You know, I'm not feeling myself. Yeah, same. You know, let's go out and chat, or let's go for a cruise or go to the beach. All it takes is one person. So I love to say that not only you reaching out might not only save your life, and might save someone else's.
Yeah. And how good does it feel to give, like, support?
Yeah.
And that's what so many people say, and that's what holds so many people back. They say, oh, I don't want to be a burden, or I don't want to, you know, put my shit on this other person, and da, 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 da. In doing that, you're robbing that other person of the experience of being able to hold space for you, to be able to support you, to be able to give you something. And it's, you know, it's something that we love doing as humans. We love to provide support.
And the embracement, you know, the feeling of actually someone being there for you.
Yeah.
And like you said, being a burden, that's the first worry is no one's going to care if I'm gone. You know, there's no one there for me to support me. But even if it's one person who you've spoken to, or that's even said good morning to you, you feel like someone's there for you. And that's all that needs to happen sometimes. Now, we've spoken about, you know, how this profession and avenue has helped you, you know, how you led up to choosing this, how you enjoy helping people, how it brings you joy, you know, helping people who may be in the same position as you. I don't like to speak of the future too much, but what are the next few steps for yourself? You know, where's Anna off to now?
I am not a forward planner, so that's really hard. That's really hard. And I sometimes struggle with that with myself, because maybe I'd be so much further ahead if I was a forward planner. But I just love life unfolding as it's meant to, and I love the mystery and the magic. And I feel like I'd love for my breathwork I'd love to be one of the leading breathwork facilitators in New Zealand. I still think that New Zealand is quite an untapped market for breathwork. I'd love to be doing it in women's prisons and women's juvenile detention centres, and working in that space of people who don't have access to this type of work. I'd love to have a baby, so working on that. And I don't know, just being happy, just being healthy, who knows?
Just loving life.
Yeah, supporting more women.
Heck yeah. Well, from what I've seen and from what I've seen for the past few months and seen in person, is you're definitely impacting people. You know, you're definitely helping people, and from personal experience, you're definitely allowing people to take a moment and reconnect with who they are and where they want to go, and not let outside shadows or eyes, you know, dwell on them and push them down. So I'm not sure if you've been told that before, but you are helping people, and what you're doing is really admirable and is going to continue to help a lot of people who you've never met or have never seen in your life before. And that's just a crazy thought, you know, that you're able to, and I know you'll begin to travel the world, because this is going to take off for you, and you are doing the right thing, and you are doing something that's really needed in this world, and is going to help a lot of people who even now have never asked for support, or have never taken time for themselves. As one class with you, them coming across your page, them hearing you speak, you know, this podcast right now, the simple techniques you've given them is going to help them tomorrow or next week, or give them a tool to have on the days where they feel like nothing's going their way, where nothing but shadows are surrounding them, where they can't find themselves, when they've lost themselves, and when life doesn't seem worth living. So for that, I want to say thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that so much.
Now, I love the work you do, and I know you'll continue doing it, and I hope you go global. And when you become the leading life coach and breathwork facilitator, make sure to check out the HendosHotTopics again for a catch-up. Really appreciate that.
I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Now, what I love to do is I'd love to make it Anna's time. You know, it can be 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. It's up to you. Say whatever's off the top of your mind, maybe a future message to yourself, something you put out into the universe to manifest, just some advice you've been given that's helped you. It can be anything. No pressure. It can be anything.
I love that. I think I just want to encourage people to start somewhere. So something that I hear a lot is, I don't know how to meditate. I wish I could meditate. Or I don't know how to do this. I wish I could do this. Take accountability, take ownership, step into self-leadership, and just start somewhere. Like, if meditation is the one thing that you do every day and you do it for 3 minutes, like, you're doing a lot more than a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And so just start somewhere. And when we have got one thing down, whether it's a 3-minute meditation every day, then we feel compelled to build something on top of that. So that might be 3 minutes of breath work. That might be a 3-minute walk outside. Just start somewhere, because these small, simple things, they really start to build upon the other. And when you take this time for yourself, you start to build self-respect. You start to build this internal kind of fire of like, I can do this. I'm doing this. I'm moving forward. I'm in forward motion. And that has a massive ripple effect. Like, I started just by listening to a podcast, and there was a moment on that podcast where I was like, oh my God, I feel heard. I feel seen. This is what I'm going through. And then I listened to more podcasts, and it was a simple thing. It wasn't this massive explosion in my life where everything changed and blah, blah, blah. It was just like a gradual process over time, but it was consistency. It was commitment. And so we just get to start somewhere small.
Love that. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Now, you guys will be able to check Anna out. I'll chuck her socials in the description, and catch her on the Full Circle podcast, where she does some amazing work, and you can tune into her more if you enjoyed this episode and loved what Anna had to say. Until then, you know I love you. You know there's a line always open for you. You know there's no silly questions in the world. Ask questions to better yourself. Until next week, do what makes you happy, do what you know is right, and do what you need to do for yourself. See you guys later.
Bye.
Perfect, Anna. That was amazing.
Matt.
That was amazing. Thank you for that chat.
Love is lost, but you found out the truth be told, that's the truth, and that's no doubt.